Well, it's really nice to be able to look at you here in person. I've watched a lot of your videos and so forth, and I think you're really, really talented. I really find what you're doing exciting and interesting, and it's different, isn't it? You're a different kind of musician.
Yeah, well, my grandpa's one of the coolest people on the planet, so I feel like I have to be a little different in some way, it couldn't just be the regular thing. It had to be different. So just kind of picked up some things along the way, like a ukulele instead of a guitar, just to stand out a little bit. But
I was going to ask you if that's a thing now. I ran across somebody else using a uke in a.
I started that.
Really?
No, I don't know. I don't know if I did or not. I'm just being silly. But yeah, it seems like I was the only one doing that for a while. And then all of a sudden, some more people started fronting bands with ukuleles.
But do you compose your songs? You use a guitar?
I do. I use the guitar when I write songs.
Yeah.
I think there's like one of our songs, Friend, I wrote on a ukulele because that's what I had with me at the time when the song came to me. So, yeah. But every other song, literally everything else is when I'm on the guitar.
All right. Well, I do want to talk about your band at length and your career and where you are now, where you're going, and a little bit about you personally. But let's start with the family, because you have sprung from the most famous musical family, I think, in the world right now.
Wow.
Well, I mean, seriously. I mean, it's not just Willie, but he's got, Lucas and Micah have made big names for themselves. I've seen Lucas a couple of times on stage. He's just unbelievable with his guitar work. And then Willie's daughters and granddaughters and everybody, and I get a little confused as to who's who, but this has been your life from the time you were born, right? This family.
Yeah, just like everyone, just born into a family. But my grandpa was already big and famous when I was born, so it's just all I've ever known. So I come from my dad was Willie Nelson Jr., who died in 91. And I'll give you a quick family tree lesson if you're into it. My grandpa was married to Martha, who was my grandmother. And Martha and Willie had Lana, Susie, and Billy. And Billy was the youngest, my dad. They called him Billy, and just to keep it less confusing. And then they got divorced. He married another lady named Shirley Colley, but they didn't have any children. And they got divorced, and he married Connie, who my dad actually named me after. I'm Constance RAELYN. And yeah, so he named me after his stepmom. He loved her very much. She's an awesome lady. And Connie and Willie had Paula and Amy. And Paula has Paula Nelson Band, and she's also a radio VJ for Sirius XM on Outlaw Country. And I think and some of my grandpa's station too, maybe on Willie's Roadhouse.
Yeah.
And then my Aunt Amy has a band called Folk Uke with Kathy Guthrie, who is Arlo Guthrie's daughter and Woody Guthrie's granddaughter.
I didn't know about her.
Okay, so their songs are great. Folk Uke, you have to check out Folk Uke. It's different and beautiful, and Papa Willie and Arlo play all over their music. You can hear they're picking, and so you have to check and sing some too, by the way. They sing on it too, so you got to check that out. And then Connie and my grandpa got divorced, and he was with Annie now. He's still with Annie, and they had Lucas and Micah. And that is, well, then we found out he had Renee, who was very late in life from something even before my grandma. I was
going to say, she's like the first child, but she's the last one to show up.
Yes, and she's the oldest one. She's passed away now, RIP. But she had breast cancer a couple of years ago. But she was actually the lady who her biological mom had her and gave her to a couple in a bar, because that's what you do in 1950 or whatever. It's just a story. But she grew up in a very loving home with that couple, and she was about 30 years old when she reached out to my grandpa originally, and she said, "I don't want anything. I just want you to know that I'm here." And then later on, she came back and she's like, "I want to get to know the family." So we got to know her a little bit later on in life.
Yeah. Who is Trevor Nelson?
Okay, Trevor is my cousin. So Papa Willie's brother, Doyle, who isn't, Aunt Bobby, we lost Aunt Bobby this
Right.
year.
Yeah.
My great aunt who played piano, that's his sister. And he had a brother named Doyle who wasn't really he wasn't in the band. He wasn't, much of anything famous or anything.
Mm.
But he had a son named Lonnie, and Lonnie just passed away. We've lost a lot of people lately. Lonnie just passed away, RIP, but Lonnie's son is Trevor. So, technically Lonnie, it would have been my dad's first cousin. And they hung out, grew up together. Lonnie and my dad were really close. And then, so Trevor is now in LA, and he was acting for a while. I think he's still in LA now.
Mm.
We're kind of all spread out all over the place. I'm the only
Sure.
one here in Nashville.
When you're little, were family gatherings like, just big hootenannies, everybody gather in a room, start playing and singing, or was it that was just something that happened professionally, and that was just part of the deal?
So when we would all get together would be the 4th of July picnics, or it would be already a show happening.
Uh-huh.
And my grandpa's always asked the family to get up on the stage and do the gospel set with him. So kind of like what you're thinking, but not like what you're thinking. It's not like, I think there's been just a couple of times that I remember us all getting up and playing a little something for each other. That doesn't happen very often. We're just very spread apart. And then after COVID, Papa Willie has to be very, we have to protect him. He's 89, and he did get COVID and recovered. So he's got the antibodies for a while, but we have to keep him pretty protected. So we try not to, because we're all out and about in the world, we're trying not to bring any germs to him, but he's quick to text. We text and, talk on the phone if we need to and all that.
You get tired of talking about your family? I mean, I know you love them, but it must be like, the constant focus, and you've got your own life, and you've got your own kids, and you've got your own career and everything.
Well, it's like, I mean, would you get tired of talking about your family? Like, it's almost like talking about yourself when you're talking about your family. Everyone wants to talk about themselves, and I'm proud of my family. I know it's super interesting. I get it, because I would want to know all about, people that I love's family. I would read books to find out about Loretta Lynn and Johnny Cash and, and Dolly Parton. I read things to try to figure it out. So I totally get it.
Difference is you might well get to meet those people, right?
Yeah, I didn't get to meet Loretta before she passed, which is sad. But
I
also I loved her so much. I like, my grandpa's the coolest, and he would not let any of his fans down. One of his biggest things his whole life, he's told us, always be kind to the fans. He grassroots style made it. So he's a little different because he's just really super cool. But I have met people that have disappointed me, so I was like, don't want to meet Loretta Lynn. I don't think she would disappoint me, but I just don't want to know, so there's some people that you just don't want to be disappointed by, and you have this grand thought of them, and I just want to keep them on the pedestal. So I'm okay with not meeting people that that I super respect, or like as a kid I was like really into or something. I don't want to.
Oh, I know the feeling very well. I've been there. And I have met some people, and I've been in radio for a very long time. So I've done a lot of interviews, and some people are just, they just crush you because they're not responsive, or they don't care. And I'll give you a quick story though. My meeting with Willie, my wife and I went to a concert. We were living in Sacramento, which is where we're from. And he was performing at the Folsom Rodeo Arena, which is, a little dirt rodeo arena.
Yeah.
This was probably, I would say, about 30 years ago. Anyway, so we were like in the 4th row center, and it was fabulous. And I was just taking pictures and very excited. And then I couldn't believe it. And this was not the first time I'd seen him perform, but it had always been in a big auditorium or something. So the show's over, he's waving and goodbye, and everybody leaves. And the next thing we know, he's coming down, walking down off the stage into the arena, down into the dirt where everybody's, making their way toward the parking lot. And suddenly everybody turns around and comes back and gathers around Willie Nelson. And he's just chatting and shaking hands and signing autographs and stuff. And it just blew me away. Now, at the time, I was the #1 radio star in Sacramento, my partner and I. And we did a morning show. It was very popular. News and talk and just a lot of blah, 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 and having fun. Well, my wife says, we need to ask him if, you could talk to him on the phone, do a little interview tomorrow or something. I said, I don't know. I'm scared to death. I've met a lot of people. I've interviewed presidents, but I could not talk to Willie Nelson. I swear to God. And I mean that literally. My wife pulls me over to him and we had him sign. She had him sign our tickets. And then she said, Willie, my husband was wondering if you would do a little interview on the radio tomorrow morning on the phone. And he says, well, darling, we're going to be probably halfway to Utah by then. My bus is leaving right here, right now. And at that time, there were no good cell phones. And, he was going to be sound asleep anyway. So she says, oh, okay, that's understandable and so forth. Well, it was really nice meeting you. Thank you. And through this whole conversation, I'm just standing there with a dumb look on my face.
Yeah.
And I know, and when we walked away, he's thinking, radio, the guy doesn't even talk.
He's so used to it though. Yeah.
Pardon me?
He's used to it though.
I guess he probably is. So tell me about your childhood.
Wait, did he ever do the interview or no? Is that the end?
No. And let me tell you, I really didn't expect it because it was just a spur of the moment thing. And he was going to be in his bus halfway across the country. And I started at 5 a.m., the next morning. So
yeah, he did. He always left the venue right after and headed to the next place.
Yeah.
So they usually get there in the middle of the night. So he'd wake up in the next town.
Yeah.
And he's always, at least before COVID, he would stop and sign autographs to everyone. I don't remember him getting down off the stage very often. Maybe that was special because of the rodeo setup, but he would stand at the stage and shake hands and sign autographs for everyone, everyone that wanted it. He would do it until they made him get off. So he's always just been for the people,
Yeah.
He
Well,
not ever lost the I'm one of you vibe energy. And it's funny how many people I've seen do what you did, do that just can't say anything to him. And he's the easiest one to talk to,
Right.
You could say anything, and he would love it. So if you ever get the chance again, just don't.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so. So anyway, tell me a little about your childhood. You have a sister, right?
Okay, so I have my sister. Yeah, we say sister and brother. I have a brother too, but they're half brother and sister. So same mom, different dad.
I see.
So they're not, they are family, but they're not in the Nelson family. But my Nelson family, has, of course, embraced them and still love my mom and everything. Yeah. So anything that's hers is theirs too. But let's see, childhood, they're quite a bit, my brother and sister are quite a bit younger than me. I was 8 when my brother was born and 12 when my sister was born. And so it was just me for a while, and my dad passed away when I was 7, so that was super hard. My mom was already married to my stepdad, who is a great stepdad. Couldn't ask for a better one. He's one of my best friends now. And so growing up was kind of rough, just losing a dad young and not understanding that at all. Kind of a sad childhood, but my mom and stepdad did everything they could to make it great. It's just sad.
Wanted to ask you about that in passing. Your father, Billy, our understanding, I think, is very well known that he killed himself. But how does that affect a 7-year-old? Were you aware of the circumstances and the situation, and how long before you kind of came to any peace with what had happened?
Well, it was kind of my first run with death as a person. I knew the concept of it from watching shows or TV or movies or whatever, but I didn't understand where they go, or just the thing of they're not coming back. I didn't understand that,
Right.
But they don't come back. It's gone. They're gone. I've definitely come to peace with it. I think there was a time in my early 20s, I read something, I don't even know what book it was, but I read in a book that you have to choose to be happy, and that it's not, that the joy is already there. You just have to choose it and find it and everything. So from that point on, it was very hard, but or not hard, but it took time to find the joy in everything, which just kind of made me laugh at everything, make everything funny for a while, so that it just wasn't crying all the time anymore.
Yeah.
And slowly I wasn't crying all the time anymore. And I didn't
Yeah.
have as much fear because there was just more laughter and joy. And I think that's where I still am. And, when stuff is heavy, I try to find the funny in it, I'm not saying that's the healthiest way, but that's how I cope with
Oh,
it.
I bet it is. They've actually done scientific studies that have proven what I think most of us have figured out on our own. And that is, if you're really down sometime or you're angry about something, if you just force yourself into using the muscles that force a phony smile on your face, you can feel it. It changes your emotion at that moment. So I would think that that's probably a little bit easier for a child to do than it is for somebody who's older.
It took me a while. I was like early 20s before I figured that out,
Right?
It was just a lot of dealing with worrying that my mom was going to die and that everyone around me was going to die. And it affected school. It affected everything around me,
Yeah.
Christmas time, my dad died on Christmas. So anytime this time of year, even when it starts getting fall and just starts cold, I can feel the seasonal depression. Yeah, but it's more of like a heavy,
it's a personal thing.
Yeah, I have to pull myself out of it, or I will just lay in. I would allow myself, if I were to allow myself to just lay in bed and be sad, I would just get sick and die eventually. And I don't know. I want to be healthy as long as I'm here. I don't need to live longer. I just, I want to live as healthy and happy as possible, and making music, writing music, doing comedy podcasts, music is funny with JB, that like all of that brings me joy. Being a mom, I'm a mom as well. So doing all those things bring me joy. And just follow the joy, right? Follow what brings the happiness. I love doing yoga. I started a yoga studio here in Nashville this year with some friends, some yoga sisters. And so it's just follow the passions that bring you joy, because I feel like that's why we're here. You got to start small. Also, I don't know if you ever do this, if you're in a bad mood and you know that turning on music is going to make you feel better, but you push it off. Do you ever do that? Because you're like, I want to be
I'm going to stay mad.
I want to stay mad. But as soon as you put on a tune that you can't help but do this too, you automatically feel better. It's so funny. I think laughter is like that. Comedy, turning on a comedy podcast, I'll do the same thing. If I'm like, now I just turn them on. If nobody's around and I'm doing something, I just turn them on so that it's just constant laughter coming my way.
Look, I will admit, I don't know your entire repertoire by any shape, but I get a sense, and it may just be because of the type of music you do, which is, well, help me with the description. It's like a crossover between, it's country, but it's also very modern, and it's got a hard edge to it. And I think I just saw it described as garage punk or something weird like that.
Yeah.
How do you describe it?
I like that. I think Rolling Stone said country garage rock.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So JB, my music partner, guitar player, his background is all rock, right? Just Clash, Ramones, Off. I don't even know anymore, but he just likes hard rock or fast punk rock stuff. And then of course me was all country, like Pop Willie, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton, Patty Loveless, all the 90s country. I knew all the songs by heart. But so it's just this mesh of that, I start the songs and then he comes in and arranges it in such a way where it has a punk feel. And that right there is different than there's some people doing it, but that, that's where the different thing is, the guitars have to be loud. And usually in country music, the vocals sit on top of the of all the music. It's just how it's always been done in country music. But in ours, we want the guitars loud and the vocals there with it, which is more rock,
Yeah.
Then it's a country song that I'm singing and playing, the bones of it are all country.
Yeah.
Usually 3 or 4 chords, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus out, I mean, there's some other, part A, part B, part A, part B.
It catches fire and then comes back down, back to its roots, right?
And we've written a couple ballads, if you will, but the one that we've originally wrote was called Daddy's Grave, and it was song therapy for me. I loved getting everything out that I wanted to say through a song. You can almost sing it easier than you can say things sometimes. Or write, same thing as you just like writing it down is way easier than saying it out loud. Or when you say something out loud, you're like, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. In your head, it didn't sound as ridiculous or whatever. But when I wrote this song and put it out and we're singing it, and every time we sing and play it, everybody got so sad. It took 3 or 4 of our rockin' numbers to get people dancing and have smiles on their faces again, that I decided I didn't want to make people sad. Like, there's enough sad things going on. There's plenty of reasons to be sad, and I just wanted to be happy. So I don't even play that song out anymore. I feel like that's car listening, shower listening.
But a lot of people, and I think especially people who are connected with country music, love a good,
I know,
heart-wrenching, I can't tell you, when I got divorced, I played He Stopped Loving Her Today about 80,000 times. And I would just sit and just bawl, and it was very therapeutic.
Yeah.
But then I get tired of it and I go put on some Chicago or whatever was happening at the time. So, that's entirely up to you. But I think it's nice to let people have a moment. I'm going to pause right there for a second.
Okay.
Daddy's Grave. That's the name of the song you're talking about.
Yes.
You wrote that when?
Probably 8 or 9 in the beginning, right when we were writing Moon Song in the very beginning, first EP and stuff. Yeah. It was the first shot at doing something, really heart-wrenching and genuine, not that everything else isn't genuine, because I try to write from things that happen around me. But it was just, heartfelt, sad song that I knew was gonna affect my family. It affected everyone around me when we put that song out.
Sure. I noticed on your I guess it was probably one of the YouTube videos or something I was looking at, and it's your website where you have the listing the band members. You play the ukulele and you do vocals. Jonathan Bright is guitars and vocals. Preach Rutherford is bass, and then you list 12 different drummers. And I sense a Christmas story coming out of that. Okay. Where are the 11 pipers, What's the deal with the drummers?
Yeah, what is the deal with drummers? We have had the hardest time holding down a drummer. Our first drummer left us to drum with Gene Simmons' solo band. Another one left for Steve Earle. He's still with Steve Earle. Another one left for Steven Tyler. She played for Steven Tyler for a while now. She's with Samantha Fish. And the other ones were just kind of the ones that we pulled, because we did use those 3 for a while, but they have other gigs, so we'd pull other ones in to fill in the gigs that they could.
I thought it was a joke of some kind. I thought you were just listing your friends and the people who, your roadies and what have you.
No, those are really actually people who have drummed with us at gigs.
You're obviously a very good showcase for drummers.
I know. Right? Little launching pad for everyone to go play with bigger people.
Yeah, right. So where do you think you are? Where do you feel that you are in your career right now, this stage of your development? How far is it you want to go? Do you have any aspirations to do something different?
No, I want to do what I'm doing. I just want to keep climbing the ladder. And I think doing that as an independent artist, I don't have a record label behind me. It's just us and reaching out and using everything we have to get more people to listen to the music, so they want to come to the shows, right? So like during the pandemic, JB and I started a podcast where we were interviewing comedians, because we were listening to their podcasts and their stand-up in the car on the way to gigs and stuff. So then when we weren't able to go play, we're like, I wonder if we can get them to talk to us, since they don't get to go play either,
Yeah.
So we crashed my grandpa's museum in Nashville on Music
Right.
Valley Drive, Willie Nelson and Friends Museum and Showcase. And we just set up cameras, and then I reached out to Doug Stanhope and told him my grandpa was Willie Nelson. So my grandpa, I have children, I'm a mom, right? So when my boys were born, he gave me a job checking his fan email, which is so sweet of him. I was able to stay home with my kids, able to pursue music. It just gave me a job. I'm a spoiled Nelson. Thank you so much, Papa Willie, for that. But I can send an email out and it'll say it's from Willie Nelson.
Right.
Right. So I've used this. And of course I asked him, of course, if I could do it. And he said yes. And so anytime with the music or with the podcast, I would just email through there. I would say, this is RAELYN, Willie's granddaughter. I'm reaching out because of this. And Doug Stanhope got back to me immediately, and he did the podcast. And if you get Doug Stanhope to say yes to your podcast, most other comedians will say yes too, is what I. So
that's kind of the way it worked. Yeah. You know, that's how I met you, was through that.
Oh.
Through the Willie Nelson fan club email, because I was reaching out to him, and then you wrote back to me saying very nicely, and it was like within an hour when I sent my email, and you said, well, Willie's not doing interviews right now, but thank you for asking. And I saw your signature and I said, wait a minute, I recognize that name too, RAELYN. So I wrote back and said, well, I know you a little bit. Why don't you come on and talk to me? So you said, yeah, okay, fine.
Okay, yeah.
So that's great. So you have two boys and a girl, is that right? You have twin boys?
Yep, I have twin boys. They are 15 now. They're learning to drive.
Oh gosh.
And my daughter's 13. She
Yeah.
just started her period for the first time this year.
Oh, well.
And she's like, stop telling everybody.
How about them? Are they musical at all?
My boys they play piano. Their favorite band is AJR. They love playing all their songs on piano, and they practice every day. They sing too, but they're not really working that muscle as much as the piano, which is just what they're focused on right now. And then my daughter is more into dance and acting and comedy, and she's not really a musical person. She's but definitely an entertainer of some sort.
Yeah, well,
You know,
I don't
she's
see how you can avoid that.
I know.
Right.
We all just want to be just like Papa Willie, I think is the deal.
Well, that's delightful. What is your process involved in writing songs and putting them together and working them out with the group?
Okay, so I wait for songs to come to me, but usually they come to me if I'm either riding around back roads. I usually make a point to drive back roads for that point, because usually songs will come to me, or ideas or a good lyric or something, and I just start wherever that spot is and just try to think on it when I'm on the back roads or in the shower. It seems like you have to be doing something routine to get to be, and then those things start pouring in. At least
I just read an interesting article on that very point, and that's exactly right. The creative people are most creative. Their creativity blossoms when they're doing something that doesn't require a lot of concentration.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And I always found that was true. I'm also a playwright, and besides my radio work, and I found that that's true when I was out doing yard work. You know, if you're mowing the lawn or something, it doesn't take a lot of concentration, but you're busy. So I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted, but that just struck a chord with me.
Yeah. When I go out and chop the stuff that needs to be trimmed.
Yeah.
Same thing, same exact thing. It's like you're doing something that doesn't require a whole lot of thought. So it shuts off some part of the brain that just allows all the other stuff to flow in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
then do you have to make notes? You have to run in and grab your guitar and start working, or will it sit for a while?
Sometimes if it's a melody, I have this thing where if I don't remember the melody later, then it wasn't a good enough melody anyway. Because I think what I bring most to the table is a catchy melody. So if it's not catchy enough to where I'm going to remember it, if I came up with it, then it's not worth it. But everything else I try to write down somewhere, like lyrics, or unless I have the lyrics already with the melody. Like one time I was just driving around, and the first part of our song Brother came to me, the lyrics and the song. I can't breathe, but I'm still smoking. I'm so high, but I keep toking. I'm drunk, but I'm still drinking too. So I had that, for months and didn't know what the song was about, you know? So I was like, and I just sing that over and over and over again. Then I was watching a TV show and this girl had her 3 older brothers go after the dude that cheated on her. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think there's a song about a brother going after the guy yet. That's so country, you know? So
Yeah, really.
Working it around that. It was just a premise of something. And I had that for a long time. And I knew that it would be like a, you know, like a dun 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 dun. Like I had certain parts about it, but it didn't all quite come together. So then when I kind of have something, I'll do a rough on guitar on my voice memo and I'll send it to JB and I'll be like, is this worth keeping? And he'll either say yes or no, or if I don't get an answer back, that's usually a good, I always get an answer back now, but in the beginning, if I didn't get an answer back, I knew it was probably dumb, but now it's good. Now they're mostly good. So he'll send back something else. Like he'll start thinking on it and write some stuff and send stuff and I'll nay it or send other things. And then we kind of write back and forth over the phone. He's at his house. I'm at my house whenever we can, you know, amongst life. And then we'll get together and he'll actually get some drums down because we'll already have an idea. And then we'll just start going from there. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how if I sit there with I don't like just sit like, I'm going to write a song today.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. I want people to relate to songs. So I feel like it has to come from something around me, something that's happening.
Kind of organic, the way it grows in you. And it's so exciting then once you get this idea that you get excited about it and it's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. And then songs evolve too, you know, they change over time. Like our song Free that we just put out, I wasn't even planning on putting it out. I wrote that song a few years ago, right after the divorce. And I thought it was just for me to play at little solo shows I did. You know, I didn't think I would ever put it out for RAELYN NELSON Band. And then after the pandemic, I'm like, oh my God, everyone can relate to this song now, you know?
Good
so
point.
Then we changed a little bit of the bridge to make that work for the time. And then, you know, so it's weird. Like it was something I pushed away. I'm like, oh no, that's an old song, you know, and I love new songs. The newest song that we've written is my favorite one to play and sing. Because yeah, it's not that you get sick of the old ones or anything. It's just, you know, it's like another level of the video game or something. Because
yeah. You say it's the latest thing to get you excited.
Yeah, and I'm already good at performing the ones we performed 1,000 times. I want to perform or hundreds of times. I want to do the new one and see how that one goes performing, you know?
I've seen your grandpa do probably 5 or 6 shows. And I've always wondered, said, my God, how can he play On the Road Again? How can he do that?
Yeah.
I always wonder that about artists who you know, really made all these big hits, and you know that people are coming to see you because they want to hear you sing your songs, and I guess you just go through the process. It's like actors on Broadway who do 8 shows a week for a year, you know.
Yeah, one of my grandpa's books, he talks about that, and he said that if he went to go see Hank Williams, because Hank Williams was all of their favorite, you know, Johnny, Waylon, all of them, and then of course Django Reinhardt for his guitar playing, right? Super influential as well. But he said, if I were to go see Hank Williams, I'd want to hear Hey Good Looking. I'd want to hear Jambalaya. You know, he's like, I want to hear the hits. So I will keep playing the hits as long as people want to come hear them, because he's a fan of people too and their hits, you know? Yeah.
You said something there that stopped me for a second. Oh, I know what it was. You were talking about Django. Did you ever get to play Trigger? Did you ever get to hold the guitar and play with it?
I did. My grandpa actually gave me a good he gave me my guitar that I have when I was 14. And then when I saw him next, I played him on Trigger, the song that I had been working on, and he gave me a little guitar lesson there on Trigger. But the neck of that guitar is way thicker than he got me a lady size Martin, beautiful. I still have it, made it through a fire somehow. But it's a magical guitar and I love it and I play it all the time. But the neck is so thick, and it was hard I remember it being like, oh, I'm not doing as good as I do on my guitar. And then he taught me some stuff, and but yeah, I've played it. It's a magical instrument as well, that Trigger.
It's got the most unique sound I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So what does Willie say about your music and your career? Does he talk to you at all about it? Does he just leave you alone, let you do your thing unless you have a question or something?
Kind of both. Yeah. I'll send him, all of us who write music will send him our songs when we're done. And then in the beginning, he'd be like, these songs are great songwriter, keep going, write more. You're on a roll, great band, all the supportive good stuff you need. He sang and played on the Moon song with us. He said we'd make it a world smash hit, which it hasn't been yet. I'm still hoping. He also, if I start writing a song over the pandemic, I'd write little things, and instead of sending it to JB, I would send it to him. And I'd be like, here's what I got, what do you want? So then he would add a little verse to it. So then I have all these little songs that I've written with my grandpa.
Then you send it to JB and don't tell him that you got some help.
I did. I'm like, listen, we can't change this line because technically this is a co-write with Willie Nelson, so we have to keep it. I was like, you can change anything else, just not that verse. But yeah, it's kind of neat. It is really cool. And when I sent him free and the lyrics and everything, he was like, as soon as it's done, let's play it on Willie's Roadhouse, which was huge for me because our band's a little rocking for Willie's Roadhouse.
Yeah.
But he heard the single and it was just country enough to make it, I guess. So that was special to me that he wanted to play it on his radio station.
Well, you need to do an album with him, it'll be Willie and RAELYN and the Boys, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's good. I don't ask him to do anything. He does so much for us.
Right.
And anything that I've gotten to do, I've just been asked, as far as like the 4th of July picnic, and we got to play Farm Aid one year, but I just wait to be asked. It's just, it's way better that way, right?
Of course. You don't want to put any pressure on him. Family pressure is bad. One other thing that I was thinking about, you seem, and I can't remember the specifics, but we were just talking about Farm Aid and the picnic and so forth. You seem to have inherited your family's compulsion to do good for other people.
Yeah.
To do kind of, benefit kind of things and so forth. What kind of causes really are close to your heart?
So my Aunt Amy and I started Willie's Kids, which is a humane initiative, to provide like humane lesson plans to school curriculum, like science, math, English, just like all those subjects are pertinent for us to know and be better people. So is humane education, where we teach everyone to be compassionate toward other people, toward animals. The specific thing is for animals in Willie's Kids. And my grandpa sent my Aunt Amy and I to DC to lobby for the horse slaughter bill. Man, this was 10 years ago. I mean, I was now looking back, I was a baby, but I felt grown up at the time. But it was very much eye-opening. Like, we were watching I'm Just a Bill to figure out what it, because we just were so dumb on Congress and Senate and how to get a bill passed and all these things. We started learning all that then, and quickly realized why Papa Willie sent us instead of him going down there, just to lobby and talk to all these congressmen about these about horses being slaughtered. And they have the cattle ranchers paying them thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and we're like, we're Willie's Kids and we're trying to help the horses, but it actually helped enough to get it done. It's now called the SAFE Act, and I think like there aren't any horse slaughterhouses or legal ones anyway in the United States, but they're in Mexico and Canada. Then they'll ship them there. So now the whole thing is to get them to stop shipping them out and also horses are not good for human consumption, and they're sending it overseas for human. They're selling the meat to France and people who do eat horse meat on the regular, but it's not good meat for them. They've been like wormers and pesticides and all this stuff because they're mostly like racehorse, or some of them are racehorses, and some of them, these aren't the horses that are just free range on the BLM land, not Black Lives Matter, the Bureau of Land Management land, not these horses that are getting sent. It's the race horses that aren't racing anymore or crippled or whatever. And they stuff them in these trailers. But anyway, that's originally what happened. And of course, we're always for the farmers. My grandpa started that in 1985 or something. And of course, the food of our country is extremely important, so, and they are
and about to get more so with the way the world is changing.
I know. I've started, and I'm not a grow plant girl until this year. And something, I don't know if it's just getting into your 30s or whatever, but something's like, start planting, watch them grow, watch it grow. So I've been like planting little vegetables and herbs and things, and it's way easier than you think it is. But also if I had a huge crop, I can't imagine. But anyway, farm aids always, I hope my family will always keep that going, forever and ever and ever. And of course, Neil Young and Dave Matthews family and everybody else. John Mellencamp. John Mellencamp, Cougar Mellencamp.
Had a little bit of a chance to enjoy your kids lately. They were home for fall break, was it?
Yes, thank you so much for letting me have those days. So earlier in the week, last week when they were on fall break, and they do school at home online, so they're not away, but I had to do a golf tournament thing on Monday if I'm the celebrity, like as soon as it's a celebrity golf tournament, JB and I went, we were supposed to be celebrities with the little teams, So immediately JB was like, she's Willie Nelson's granddaughter. And I was like, thank God he told him, because then
you don't want to have to say it yourself.
I know, and I didn't want to have to say it. But yeah, so then we did that, and I was all day Monday. And then Tuesday was Doug Stanhope came to Nashville, and he reached out very early in the day. And so I went and hung out with him, and JB and I both did, and we drank all day long. Wednesday, I was hungover. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to spend some time with my kids this week before they go to their dad's. But they had been with me for a couple of weeks because he was out of town. So, but their dad is awesome. He lives just like 15 minutes from me, him and his wife. His wife is great, a wonderful stepmom, and we co-parent pretty well together. And so, yeah,
that's wonderful. More people
to get them today.
More people should be like that. My wife and I both were divorced. We both had one son from our first marriage. And we remain good friends with our exes, and it's so much better for the kids, and it's so much better for us. I don't know why people, hold on to the bad part of something that was largely good. It's like, well, you were in love at that time, you have some wonderful memories. Why don't we dwell on those and let the other stuff go?
Yeah,
that's very healthy.
In kind of crappy co-parenting situations just because of resentful thoughts or whatever, our human nature, just for human nature,
Yes.
I'm really glad. And it took a while. I mean, it took a while for us to even want to talk to each other.
Sure.
But we did.
You all go through that. You all go through that phase.
Yeah.
There are some resentments and anger that you have to get through.
Yep. And then I remember us actually having a conversation like, I'm sorry. We were it just felt like we got married really young and started doing things out of spite toward each other and could not get out of that. And I never want to live like that again, just all of a sudden doing things out of spite. And I remember us realizing that a few years after the divorce, and apologizing to each other for being so young and dumb and spiteful.
You froze.
It's better. And then, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Well, just like we both agreed to what we did wrong and how it definitely ruined anything that could be, but let's be friends now because we have 3 children together,
Right.
like have each other's back. So I know anytime he reaches out like, hey, I need help. Can you do this?
Yeah.
I say yes. If I can't do it, my family's there. And same with him, like if we need help, we're there. And I feel like we've got each other's back for, forever. Even when our kids are grown, he's still family. My family's still, is still family. My grandpa's been divorced 4 times or married 4 times. So it's my mom and dad were divorced before my dad died. Like divorce just seems regular to in my family. It's not a, I mean, I hate
Part of the
saying,
world.
yeah, it's like if it doesn't work out, just get divorced, whatever, you know. That's
Well, I wouldn't think it's that easy. It's not like that, but you know, when I was little, or when your grandpa was little, you know, divorce was a terrible thing.
I know.
And people stayed together because, never mind the kids, because they would be shunned from society.
Or hell. They would go to hell if they did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's
And there are
wonderful.
people who still have that kind of thought in their head, you know, that it's that they're bad people if it's a failure or something, you know.
And you only got one life, you know, you have to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And that
yeah.
helps everybody around you.
Who wants to live miserably? Nobody.
Exactly. And especially when you're in that stage of being spiteful and angry, you know, all you're doing is eating away at yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's making you ugly.
Yeah, and it's gonna appear on the outside ugly too, you know, but if it's good on the inside, good's gonna appear, you're gonna look prettier. So if for nothing, do it for vanity.
Good point. All right, RAELYN, where are you going from here? What do you got planned? What's going up? What's coming up?
We have podcasts, comedian Joe List. We're gonna
I've heard your podcast, by the way. It is really enjoyable. It's called Music is Funny.
Yes, thank you for letting me promote that. We have a new single coming out. It's one of my grandpa's tunes with WILLIE, the I Can Get Off on You song. And Joe DeRosa, the comedian, actually did the drums on it. So that's going to be cool. It'll be featuring him. And then I have an original song coming out. And then Doug Stanhope was going to do the Grinch with me, but he said I don't think it's going to work this year. I think it's going to be next year because he said I had to go out to Bisbee, Arizona, which is so far away from me for us to make it happen. So maybe we can get that done next year so that we can do the Grinch as a Christmas single. So I was going to do a Christmas single this year, but maybe not, or maybe try to figure something else out. I don't know. But anyway, putting tunes out. We have a bunch of shows for next year. Finally making the festival circuit. I've been trying to get on that festival circuit for a while. It seems like once you get into that, you have pretty steady work, you know, for the year. So that seems like it's coming our way this year. And we had a bunch of shows scheduled this year, and then they were booked last year, and then all of a sudden all the flights went up astronomically high. Gas went up, you know how it is. So it got so expensive to travel with the band. I had to I'm like, I'm not paying to play anymore. This is that's what COVID made me realize, is that you don't have to pay to play anymore. There are other things you could use what you have. So what I have is a fun way of talking to my fans with comedians, you know, so, and maybe I can get some of their fans to listen and jump on board with the music, you know, like just use what you have to help build the brand or the band or whatever you want to say. I know I'm just rambling to you. You're gonna have to shut me off.
No, it's delightful. I tell you what,
I'm talking about myself. What else you want to know?
Tell you what, we're gonna keep our eyes open. You'll be coming out to Billy Bob's here at some point, I'm sure.
Are you in Texas?
Yeah, Dallas.
Okay.
Dallas, Fort Worth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Denton I played at LSA Burger in Denton a few times.
Oh, really?
Denton's a fun town.
Denton is cool. Yeah. A big college town.
Yeah, it's like Austin. It looks like Austin to me in Denton.
She works there. My wife works in Denton. So
okay.
Yeah, it's a cool town. And yeah, Austin's not that far. So I'm gonna keep an eye on your schedule, and at some point, you know, I'll send you a little note, say, hey, just want to come by and say hello before the show or something of that nature.
Yeah, do it. I'll put you on the list. Let me know.
All right, RAELYN, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Have a wonderful world. Have a wonderful life, and all the success that you want.
Back at you.
All right. Bye-bye.